let's talk about Thursday night. The 1-4 Broncos at the 4-1 Chiefs in Arrowhead. Travis Kelce playing despite that ankle injury he suffered on Sunday. Good to see him out there playing through it. What do you think of the Broncos with Frank Clark out, and then he's released this week? I mean, Frank Clark, very valuable for the Chiefs. Very productive in the playoffs, like third all time in sacks in the playoffs. Um, but like zero impact in Denver, no sacks, only 2 games played. Why do you think Frank Clark like didn't do anything in Denver?
I just don't think he was utilized properly. I mean, some players play really well in specific systems. I think they need like the right coaching and the right setup. And I mean, he was trying to go. I just don't think his heart was in it for Denver. I mean, he gave back money to create a scenario where they could let him go. And I think he just wasn't in it with Denver this year.
Yeah, and it sounds like everyone's saying he's going to go back to Kansas City. So maybe, he just wants to be on the Chiefs. I don't know. It's interesting, yeah, that he would take a pay cut to get cut.
Yeah, I think it's
But
interesting that the Broncos have recently parted ways with Randy Gregory as well and him. I just think it's a it's a sign of how the Broncos are feeling internally that players are just trying to leave and just not
yeah,
performing.
yeah, not only them two, but there's been some talk about Justin Simmons and then Jerry Jeudy as well. So be interesting to see what the Broncos do and if they have a fire sale or what with their players.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but let's get into this game. The Chiefs lead 13-0 at halftime. Broncos cut it to a one possession game. They cut it to 16-8 after a 2-point conversion, but the Chiefs kick a field goal and win 19-8 in a pretty sloppy game. Lots of turnovers on downs. The Chiefs, to me, seem like they were just like playing with their food in this game. Like they knew. You see this with Kansas City from time to time. They know they're the better team, and they kind of just like go through the motions and try some different things and don't play a clean game. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, you said it in our last podcast that the Chiefs play down to their opponent, and I absolutely agree with you. They when they're comfortable in the win, they barely try. They sub in some plays that they don't normally do. I mean, I think 3 back laterals in this game. I think
Yeah,
they use this as a practice. They were just trying stuff that they don't normally do to see if it would work in a real game and not treating this as if it was a real opponent.
yeah, and I wonder if that's ever going to come back to bite them. I don't think that it's an issue in the regular season as long as they get, win the division and get a home playoff game. But I wonder if at any point it comes back to bite them in the playoffs or anything. I don't know. But some interesting play calling, like going for it on 4th and 2, and instead of leaving Mahomes and the offense out there, they try a tight end quarterback sneak like fake from the kick. What did you think of that? I mean, if you're gonna go for it, why not have Mahomes on the field?
Yeah, I think again that was one of those situations that like, hey, let's try this play, and if it works, cool. If not, we're playing the Broncos. I mean, with their win this week, the Chiefs have now won 16 in a row against the Broncos. So it's the
Wow.
third longest streak in NFL history for any team against a single opponent. I think they just knew they could get away with trying some new and unusual things, and if they didn't pay off, they could, come back and win the game however they needed to. So I just don't think they ever thought they had any chance of losing this game, and they were just trying some stuff. I mean, a fake punt didn't seem smart here, but then again, they didn't ever seem like they were concerned about losing. So why not try it in this game?
Yeah, and it's pretty bad that, it's gotten to this point where the Broncos literally can't beat the Chiefs. And you even have Broncos have weapons. They got Sean Payton at coach. You got Russell Wilson. You got Cortland Sutton. You got guys, Javante Williams, but they just can't seem to get it going. Harrison Butker, in my opinion, is the MVP of the game, 4 for 4 on field goals, and he hit that 60-yarder right before halftime to put him up 13-0. Uh, but just a sloppy game overall. Um, Travis Kelsey looked good for playing on an injured ankle, 9 catches for 124 yards. What do you think of this Broncos offense? That we all know the defense is terrible, but the offense just I tweeted and posted a few things about like I don't know what they're trying to accomplish. Like it looks so bad.
I mean, I think that Russell Wilson has been unfairly blamed a bit throughout the season. But this week, that was all Russell Wilson. I mean, the narrative going into this game for the season is, oh, it's Russell Wilson's fault. He's fallen off. He can't play anymore. And I mean, looking at his numbers and like what has happened in previous games, I wouldn't say that. This week, oh my God, he was
Yeah,
just bad. I mean, his poor play definitely contributed to the loss and maybe caused the loss. I mean, he could not run the ball. He could not get the ball out. I mean, just it was bad. I don't think he was pressured overly, but he was holding onto the ball way too long, running directly into sacks. There was twice when I saw times when he could have used his legs, like the Russell Wilson of old, and avoided it and gotten the first down, and he ran straight into a sack instead. I mean, his accuracy was awful. Yeah, so this week I think it was a lot on Russ, but that play calling just it was lackluster at best. It wasn't, I mean, I don't know what was happening there, but it just didn't seem like they were making any plan to do any. I mean, you're playing Kansas City.
hmm
Travis Kelsey, always open. The entire game, he was just completely wide open. But on offense, like the Denver offense wasn't accomplishing anything. It didn't seem like they had a plan. There was no purpose. I mean, I don't know what was happening there. Denver only attempted one pass longer than 10 fields or 10 yards downfield in the first 3 quarters.
wow.
When you have three receivers with more than 200 yards, why can't why aren't you using them? Why can't you include them in your play? I mean, there was no play action. I don't know what the play calling was in this game and what was going on there.
Yeah, I don't either. They look lost. They look confused, out of sorts, no chemistry. It looks bad. It looks like a locker room issue, a organizational issue, a talent issue. It looks all across the board. Nothing is going right. It's crazy how bad it can look at times in the NFL. I've seen it with my Bears. Uh, you've seen it recently at times with Green Bay. I don't know if it's been to this level, but Denver looked terrible.
Yeah.
Um,
And I have to give props to their defense. I know Kansas City played down. They weren't like Miami. Miami came in and planned to blow up against Denver, and Kansas City played down a bit. But I mean, for the first most of the first half, like it was a pretty solid show on Denver's defense. I'll give them points for that. I mean, they made it almost 2 full quarters because all of those points were scored in what the last 6 minutes of the first half.
yeah,
So I mean, they looked good for a second there.
yeah, and only two field goals in the second half as well.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, it's a hard game to really figure out because it's like the Chiefs are playing down to their opponent, and even when they're playing down, it's not that competitive. Just a bad football game overall.
Yeah.
Did you see pregame where NFL Network analyst Steve Smith had a little confrontation with Jerry Jeudy and then called him out in a major way on the broadcast? We've seen this now multiple weeks this season, and for a while now, former players really going at current players. I don't know if it's a good look. I like Steve Smith. He's always been that type of guy. He's been very opinionated, very in your face. He's not afraid to tell you what he thinks. But do you think this is a bad look from Rodney Harrison, Steve Smith, multiple former players being super critical of current players? JJ Watt had a lot to say about this week on the Pat McAfee show.
Um, I'm not a Steve Smith fan. I don't like him. I think he just runs his mouth too much.
hmm
And I know he's a passionate guy, but sometimes like not every thought that comes out of your mouth needs to be that emblazoned. Like he's a hothead and it just kind of irks me. And I don't like how he walked it back afterwards. Like he came back and attempted to apologize. Like if you're gonna say it, stand behind your words.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
mean, your opinion's your opinion, but I mean, yeah, he has a place to stand from. I mean, he was productive when he was in the NFL. It's not like Orlovsky over here running his mouth, but I, I don't know. I just think they need to remember what it's like to be in the NFL and in the moment sometimes. Because, like, looking from the outside and in a time when social media and everything is so much more prevalent, there are a lot of different rules. And I feel like media is so much more invasive in the
Yeah,
lives of present NFL players than it was back when he was in the NFL.
yeah, I agree. And JJ Watt had a good point where he's like, even the best players in the game are gonna have lowlights. Like he's like you could do a low light clip, so low light uh montage of my career, and JJ Watt said I would look like shit. He's like, I've had small ass wide receivers put me on my back in a game and miss tackles and miss assignments. And he's like, you can do that with literally anybody. So to be super hypercritical of these players is kind of a bad look, and I kind of agree with it. I like Steve Smith, but I think that mouth and that energy that he brings was much more suited when he was on the field playing the game than being an analyst. And I agree. Why are you going to walk it back too? So
Yeah.
a lot of interesting stuff to take from this game, along with the NFL beating the Taylor Swift stuff to death.
Oh
Like
my
it's dead already. Let go. Let it go.